we're literally on the perimeter of the space and waiting for someone to enter the dance. Is it more generous? Like, let's say the dance has begun. Is it more generous for me to enter, or is it more generous for me to stay on the outside? And I think that's sort of what I'm tending to in a lot of my work.
Hi, I'm the bucket of craft supplies that you ordered at 3 a.m. months and months ago, rattling in the closet to say hello. Phoebe.
And I'm Jacques.
Welcome to Do You Ever Feel Like?
Where we ask the questions and everyone's thinking and no one's answering.
I don't like looking into your eyes saying this. This is weird.
This is bizarre.com.
We're recording the podcast technically for the first time ever in person, but it's just this intro.
And we're on a couch.
Really close together.
Because we have one mic staring into each other's souls, which actually is quite appropriate for, I think,
Today's guest.
Because, like, you want to talk about place? You want to talk about
do you want to talk
vulnerability?
About dance? Do you want to talk about,
like, I don't know, staring into the soul?
Staring into your own soul to make something?
Yeah.
Today's guest is Cody Cook-Parrott, as you probably know, because you looked at the title of it, and that's probably why you're here.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about it a little bit in the episode, but like, how did you find Cody? What's your relationship to Cody's work?
Yeah, like through my dance buddies.
Oh, really?
Like through my dance friends that followed Cody and, you know, just were really like refreshed. Like it was like a refreshing thing to see personal practice and like just have it be for Cody, not for anyone else, like that practice. And then was shared with me, and then I was like, whoa, you know.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Because we spoke to Cody right as they came back to personal practice.
Yeah,
that's really
right
weird.
back to dance.
That's really weird.
That's
funny. We talk a lot about this in the episode, but Cody has such a archive of work on the internet, deeply online. Yeah, my first interaction with Cody's work was their Etsy wedding profile, which is probably to like 2000 and I remember sitting in my bedroom reading it in like 2011. It's just gonna honestly probably earlier than that.
Wow.
But you remember when Etsy used to be cool?
I do.
When I had a blog, I used to read the Etsy blog, and I was like, "Oh, this person, have company."
Wow.
Yeah. And reading their zines in my naturopath, Dr. Emily Bennett's office. Yeah. So funny.
Yeah. How to not always be working is like how I think I, you know, started to see Cody's work like outside of dance, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you know what I mean? Like as like creative facilitator, as like, you know, all of that, which I feel like it's so many of the things that Cody has written continue to be resources, tools, things that we share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you want to listen to this episode?
Oh my God. What a question.
I think if you're a person conflicted about, here's who we speak to a lot of the time. We speak to a lot of people that are conflicted about, do I sell my jam at the side of the road? And can I also be deeply interested in the works of Shakespeare and perform them?
Yes.
At the summer festival? Can I exist at the same time as that? And I think absolutely yes. I think this episode is for anybody who feels I don't know, multi-hyphenates, yes, but I think it's actually deeper than that when you're a multi-hyphenate.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of choices, a lot of decision fatigue. There's a lot of stuff that goes into where to put what, and so this will be such an adventure for that person.
The monetizing of artistic process too.
Yeah, exactly.
And that question of self. Well, real quick,
Cody Cook-Parrott is a writer and artist living on the Leelanau Peninsula in northern Michigan. They facilitate a weekly writing group called Landscapes and teach classes about writing, quilting, and creative practice. They write the weekly newsletter Monday. Fab, subscribe.
11 out of 10,
you definitely
recommend.
should. And are the host of the podcast Common Shapes. They are the author of the books How to Not Always Be Working and Getting to Center.
And just the other day, a new book was announced.
coming in October, I want to say, later in the year.
Yes.
Yeah. They also self-published books about their projects Personal Practice and Friendship Village. Cody has a BFA in dance from the University of Michigan and is an MFA candidate at the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics at Naropa University. Their work has been featured in the New York Times, Vanity Fair, Dance Magazine, the Huffington Post, and more. They have 2 free workbooks, the Creative Ideation Portal and the Weaving in Our Values Toolkit, both, again, so good. Cody is currently working on a project about Michigan quilt history, which you can participate in. We will drop the link. Also, I'm pretty sure that Cody is still running
Landscapes.
Landscapes. A couple more weeks to go of that. We'll put all the links.
Yeah, I highly recommend being in space with Cody. We talked about this in the episode. I've taken a handful of their courses before. I've been in the Zoom room with Cody, and I can, like, with a lot of certainty, say this business, this podcast, this space, retreat would not have happened without Cody's work. And there's not a lot of artists I feel like I can actually say that about. So thank you, Cody.
Welcome to the stage.
Please welcome to the stage. Alrighty, today on the podcast we have artist, writer, podcaster, quilter, a dancer, a radio show host, a zine maker, a residency host, a shape maker, a dog parent, a facilitator, a professional pivoter, really. Cody Cook-Parrott. Please welcome to the stage, Cody Cook-Parrott.
Oh my gosh, Phoebe, thank you. That was an amazing that was the list. I was like, wow, it's a lot, but it's the list. It's
Did
beautiful.
I forget anything in there?
Yeah, exactly. The deep dive is real.
The deep dive is real. Gosh, I can't imagine. Home owner and land steward.
Hell yeah.
Painter of cabinets.
Painter of cabinets. Oh, I was thinking about the fireplace.
Tender of the fire.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's huge.
But yes, you did great on the professional side of the list. Thank you.
Well, you've had like such a, I mean, all artists have such careers, blah, 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 blah. But I think you've had a career online. And I think that's like, we're getting to like this, I'm feeling old online lately. I don't know about either of you, but it's like, you have like you can have like an archive of work now on the internet, which is kind of intense, I'm sure. I wanted to ask, like, how does being such a multi-hyphenate feel? I think a lot of the time people get really stressed about adding, like, okay, but I do this, but I also do that. Like, I tend herbs in the garden. I also like dance with them. But like, do you think I could add weaver to that collection of things at all? And like, I think like that's the stress that I hear from our other artists often. And I'm wondering, has that shown up for you? Does that show up for you? Or like, are you cool to just keep adding to the list?
To the list. More to the list. You know, I think, it doesn't really stress me out. It feels so just, you know, since I was a kid, you know, I started dancing when I was a child, like since I can remember, and then started taking like dance classes when I was 5, and, you know, started really writing like kind of seriously when I was 9. Like that's when I like really started like writing poetry, and like I was quote pretending to write a novel about the boys who played basketball down the street. And you know, I just really embodied the role of the artist so early that it doesn't, I have to write and I have to dance. I think what came up when you asked the question was really when someone asks me that, sort of like, I'm tending to the herbs in the garden and I'm dancing, and should I add this other thing? To me, it's like, add as much as you want, but don't add it all to your job. You know, it's like, that's, I think, what is the hardest for like the neurodivergent multi-hyphenate creatives, which I'm guessing we all are. And if you're listening, you are. And so, you know, I think that's my biggest like lesson. And the thing that I tell people is like, you know, I really wrote How to Not Always Be Working coming out of the experience of like trying to just make everything my job, and that burnt me out so much. And it's interesting that, you know, dance is what I have a degree in, and what I often say I have the most like public displays of, you know, it's like been in Dance Magazine and the New York Times, and sort of like, whereas like my sort of self-employment career hasn't been sort of spotlit in the cultural lexicon in the same way, and I make no money from dancing. You know, it's not part of my job. But I think people who like my dancing probably buy my books and take my classes, you know, so it's not, they don't have to be separate, but it's not an income generating practice. So I think that's what keeps me steady, is like, I have my newsletter and I teach, and that's, and I teach a lot of different things. And that, I will say, sometimes can feel confusing. Like, I think people are like, we want to take your writing class, but you make blankets also. Like, it's, but you know, the people find themselves to me. So I trust it's working.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you end up in like the multi-hyphenate land when you are the like, I'm thinking, I mean, I was rattling, Jacqueline, was I pestering you about triangulation the other day? That's like something I've been thinking about, like when about cell towers. And I was like, you need 3 points to make like anything make sense, because like that's how you triangulate around something. And like that's just like a deep dive I went on the other day, and I was like, that can definitely show up in like my sewing for some reason. You know, like I think you have to go down all of these different avenues to like find the thing. But I think, yeah, like when, I don't know, I waffle back and forth so much on like the getting paid for work and like how I feel about it, even as somebody who's been doing it for like a decade. I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Let's like liberate ourselves through it. And then I'm like, I gotta go and become an accountant like now, like stat. And I think, I don't know, I don't really love the like moralization of self-employment as like something that's like good or like holier than, I don't,
or radical.
Know. Radical. Yeah. And like I think a lot of the time we're just seeing people like mirror the same, I don't know, like hellscape tech bro capitalism nonsense in their own practices.
I think what I would love to know with that, with what Phoebe's saying, is like, for yourself, how do you like, is there like a litmus test? Is there a knowing? Is there like, how do you check in and go, okay, dancing is expression, but teaching is job? Or like garden is like, you know what I mean, tending to process, but quilting is a class. Like, how is there like, what is the like negotiation of that, the discovery of that, the like process to finding that? Because I also think that can be really like a place of tension for a lot of multi-hyphenates and artists too. Some of it is just trying it, and then it's often like what I don't like, and it's like you know, like someone a beloved person in my life like commissioned me to make a quilt, which I do not do. I do not sell quilts. I do not commission quilts. I either gift them or I teach the art of quilting, and it took me so long. Like, because it just, I just don't exchange commerce and quilting in that way. And so it was like, I was like, oh, I can't make this on my own timeline because I was paid for it and I need to finish it. And so that is maybe a litmus test of like, is it uncomfortable? Is it, when I do it, does it feel weird? And because I love teaching, I'll teach dance class and make money to teach dance class. I'm happy. If you're listening and you want me to come teach dance class where you live, I will come teach dance class.
Yes.
But I don't have much of an experience. Like, I've maybe been like hired to perform as a dancer like twice in my life. It's just, and that's on purpose. And like, it's like, I'm not like calling that in. And so I think it is just, the litmus test is like, how's my nervous system doing when I think about embodying this practice and exchanging money for it? And I think I also just like got good at other ways of doing business in a way that felt good. And, you know, in some ways I think of like, my teaching is my day job. Like, you know, like I think of like my writing practice in my newsletter, which I do make money from, but that or dancing as sort of the like, and I struggle to talk about it because I want to be really clear. Like, I love teaching, but it is my job. Like, there's absolutely moments where I'm like, gotta go teach quilt class. Yeah. And the second the Zoom room opens, I am like
on and in it and I love it, but I can be exhausted afterwards. And so, yeah, I think even parts of self-employment include sort of parts that feel more sparkly or parts that feel like a day job or parts that feel like just creative practice. So
Yeah. Well, I'm always like rolling my eyes at the amount of stuff that you need to know about as a self-employed person. Like we were just like for 3 weeks, something on the website needed to move someplace to be verified for something. And I needed to talk to a man and the task was going to take 5 minutes. Like I needed God to come move me. Like it was like my like on my knees. Anyway, like those moments. And yeah, I don't know. I guess that's where I get like frustrated with the moralization of those things. Yeah. Okay, I think about ideas like an individual idea and like I come and assess that thing. And then like the idea goes into a container of someplace. How do ideas show up for you? And is it like the inverse of that? Is like, I guess, part one of the question.
Yeah, I definitely, when I teach or talk about like the business of creative practice or something, I'm always talking about, containers or pots on the stove. And like, I think it does sort of work inversely or backwards for me or something. It's like I have the container of my newsletter, and because I have that container, I can like come up with ideas of what to write about or what to insert in there. But also, I mean, Landscapes, which is my new co-working writing group, definitely came out of like, I'm about to start grad school to get my MFA in creative writing, and I want to write more, and I'm working on a new book. And it was just, I'm working on two new books. And so I was just like, I need to be writing. I guess I'll create the container for myself to write and invite others. I mean, that's really how I would say most of my job starts from, I need something. Do other people want to do it with me?
Oh, yeah. That's like the beauty of being an artist, I think, is like, this world sucks. I want to put this thing in there. I need this for me. I mean, Jacqueline and I were having this like debate on the podcast the other day about, that's certainly where I come from when I create. I don't even remember what you were talking about, Jacqueline.
You were talking about how anger is like a place that sometimes you start, like the world sucks. Like I want to see something else. I need something else for myself. Yeah. I'm angry about this. I'm going to go make it. And I was saying that is just that's not where I step into idea, like from a place of frustration or anger. Yeah. I think I really resonate with like the working backwards, almost like I have to have the container to then go like, what's the best thing for it? You know what I mean? Instead of like have the idea and then build the container that's going to support the idea, Yeah.
Yeah. Like I, is there like it's funny that you were saying, like a litmus test of like what determines what goes where? Or is it like, like you were saying, like the pot, we're all doing this, pots, like there's a thing and the thing must be filled with things.
Yeah, I think that I'm grateful that at some point I decided my newsletter would be for anything. It was never like, oh, this is a newsletter about quilting. Yeah. It was just like, this is my newsletter has always very much existed in like a very Tumblr blog. Yeah. You know, I was a Zanga girly, you know, I was a live journal girly. Yeah. Like, it's just very much, here's what I did. Here's what I think from the past week. And then I could drop anything in. So, and I do, my quilting class, which I taught really consistently for 3 years, was really the place that I would just drop in any of my research into that container. So it was like, yes, it's about quilts, but depending on like whose autobiography I'm reading or what memoir I'm reading or what podcast I'm listening to, it's gonna, each class was very different because it was really the sort of like lessons of creativity revolved around whatever I was paying attention to at that time. Cool. So I think, even if you do have a really specific container, like this is a class for making quilts, you can add in whatever other information you want to add in. And that's really I'm just coming back from studying for a week with my dance mentors, who are a collective called The Architects. And that's really their work. It's like, it's a dance workshop, but they're always bringing in, like, you know, one of them's a poet, one of them studies Feldenkrais, one of them, you know, so they're all working in other modalities, and they're bringing that research into the work. And so I think that's, you know, it's like the container can be really specific, but you can sort of bring anything into it that you want.
I'm wondering if there's something about like performance and like when you feel like you have the like shock horror. I was a musical theater kid. No one's ever surprised by that. I think like when you are gifted like performance from like a young age, or like told that you're like allowed to show up, I do feel like there is something in that where it's like, oh, well, this is just like a hat I'm going to try on, and like I can stuff whatever I want into the performance of a quilting class or writing or facilitating or whatever. It's like, again, it's just a container, and I can fill the containner with what it like. Everything's a play. Everything's a play. Everything's a dance.
Everything's a play. Yes, I love that.
And like that's so much more exciting to me than like, here is what people learn in a place at a time, because like that's never what we're actually dealing with. I think like context is so important all the time, and like the context in which we're creating in the world is so much more important than like what people get. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I love that we're going here, because it's like, how do we, like, I'm curious to know, Cody, like, is there like a reconciliation or something that has to happen with when something has money attached to it, right? Because I think, like, I'm assuming that people come to class, or people come to a container, and they have an expectation maybe around like what they're going to be taught, what they're going to learn, what they're quote unquote going to get. And how do we kind of like reconcile the expectations of the selling of a thing, right? And like the exchange of a transaction, right? And like the exploration, like bring whatever you want into it that week kind of like space. Like how do we balance those things? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a very poetic answer, but I make really clear sales pages that are kind of like, I'm a crazy person. You're going to take class with a crazy person. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I don't quite say that, but you know, I am a tornado person. I am not a trauma-informed space holder, facilitator, healer. If you're going to come to my class, you need to understand that big feelings will come up, and you have to have your tools to be able to regulate through them. And so, you know, I say that because not in like a sassy way, but in just like a really factual way. I try to be just overly transparent because I want people to feel safe and okay in my spaces. And I jump all over the place, you know.
Right.
I'm really like public about like, I'm a sober addict, I'm bipolar, I have ADHD, like, you know, but I also like, I don't need to like list all the things as much as I just try to paint a picture of what the room is like. And with quilt class, I feel like it's much more a word of mouth. Like, this is the vibe of quilt class. I'm not like, here's the research I'm dropping in. I'm really like, here's what we do every week. You make a blanket at the end. And then I think word kind of spreads like, this is an art class that maybe will change your life. And people sign up. And so, yeah, I do try to keep some mystery still to the work and what's going to be in it, and trust that people will show up. But yeah, I do, in terms of that, like you were asking, like that expectation of the exchange of commerce and the container. Yeah, I just try to be like so incredibly clear with like, here's, if you've never been in one of my Zoom rooms, here is what it will feel like. And I think my little disclaimer says something like, you might see your ex-girlfriend there. I don't know who's going to be there. 200 people might be there. 20 people might sign up. I don't know. And so you're signing up with the information you have, and there's no refunds. So make a decision.
I think that's, I mean, I have found, I'm going to speak for myself.
Speak from the I.
Yeah. in being like a person, okay, I guess we're gonna talk about Instagram, and being like a person online, like you can say, like I feel like I could show up like naked, crying, being like, here's all of the horrible things that I thought about myself today. Just like me, not even like, you know, all the external things. And people are still going to paint whatever picture they have of you, right? And so I think you've done like a really beautiful job when you show up with like I think like transparency is more like, I don't know. I feel like authenticity is one of those words that's just been like Instagram cursived to hell, that like we don't even have like a real meaning of that word anymore. But it's like when it's like transparent and like honest, like actually honest, here's what's going on. Like I have found in running like our business, in just relating with other people, like that gets me so much, I don't know, I can just like sleep really well at night, even if people have whatever opinions or feelings that they're going to have. Because it's like, well, I just was me, like in the truest sense. And I was honest, and I was generous, and I was kind, and I was like as transparent as I could be. And like, I think that is, I don't know. Yeah. If we're going to talk about like sales pages, like I think like that's the, like if you can do that in a sales page, or you can do that in exchange with somebody, like that's like the kindest thing I think you can do, instead of, I don't know what other people are doing. I really admire that in you, and it's given me, I mean, I feel like we should have started this. There wouldn't be Do You Ever without, I mean, at the very least, I picked up, this is funny. I mean, this is what I was saying, without like you have like such an archive. You have such an archive of work. I remember sitting in my naturopath's office, and she had her little zine library, and I picked up, How a Social Media Network gave me my best friends.
My career, true love,
and made me want to kill myself. Okay, great,
die.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Just die. Just pass on.
Okay, yeah. I just want to fling myself off.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And just. I don't know what kind of wording we put at the top of this. I mean, I think I say
in the naturopath's office. Like, I don't know. You know, I'm just saying. Like, what a scene. Everything is theater.
She was like,
everything's a play.
Yeah,
everything's
a play. Actually, I'll really paint the picture for you. It was community acupuncture time, and like the cotton gauze curtain was like there, and there was like music, and I like, I don't know, and me, and like made a loud noise when I walked in the room, obviously, and like picked up the thing and was like, oh, made another loud noise. Anyway,
I think that I think transparency is very clearly a value. Mm-hmm. And I think that your work and the way you work is a really great example of having a values driven, not just like we often, I think that things can only be value based if it's like art or creative and not business. Right. And I think that you're a really great example of running a values based business. And I'm just curious to know, like, what other things besides transparency are close to you when you're creating an exchange with, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot about financial accessibility. I think a lot about who's in the room and who's not in the room and why. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'm thinking about it most, like, closely right now because of this new digital group that's about to start, Landscapes, because I really thought about the price for a long time and really did a lot. I asked, you know, that's the other thing that I try to remind my students or peers or colleagues is like, you can just ask your followers or your readers, like, what do you want? Like, what classes do you want to see? Like, what price point feels correct? What feels like too much? What feels like too little? So, you know, there have been almost 0 times I've said no to someone to come to a class. Maybe quilt class is capped, so there's a certain amount I need to make. And so somebody might say, hey, can I pay this much? And I might come back and say, I need it to be this much, but you can split that up into 3 payments. And they'll be like, okay, great. You know, and so for the most part, I don't say no to anyone. Landscapes has low and no cost spots outside of the sliding scale, and also has Brandy Cheyenne Harper, who's an amazing knitter and writer, is running a BIPOC circle in the group. And so like those are just structures and frameworks that I'm asking myself, like, as a white teacher, as a queer teacher, as a non-binary teacher, like I'm always thinking about like what identities am I bringing to the room and what do I want to see more of? What do I want to see less of? What will spark more generosity in the group? So I often like call on people instead of just wait for raised hands. Like I'm sort of curating like who's going to step into the dance, if you will, into the play, like who's going to be next. So yeah, those are, I think, and just really like, you know, I really weave my values into, you know, I might write an essay about like falling in love and then at the end it's like, and free Palestine. You know, it's like I don't have to necessarily write like a think piece every time about, you know, the political landscape, but it's really important to me to stay current and speak my values into those containers that I make, with the fear of loss sometimes, of loss of readers, loss of finances, loss of money. And it's always worth it to me. And I think the last value I'll say, which has really changed recently, last year I made the most money that I've ever made in a year and was exhausted, like was just like, what was the point of that? And spent a lot of it like with some of my like money habits. Like I'm kind of, so this year I'm sort of like redoing a lot of the like spending and just getting comfortable earning less. I'm earning much less this year than I did last year, maybe even the year before. And so I think that's another sort of value, is that I'm just having more experiences with my friends and my collaborators, and am just a lot more active in my private life and practice than this sort of constant like churning out of material. And that I'm so happy today. Like I'm so much happier. And to be honest, like a little broke, like, you know, like to be really clear, like I think am somewhat of a higher earner as an artist, as a writer. And, you know, not only do I now pay my taxes, which I didn't used to, I also have back taxes, which comes out to about $30,000 a year that I have to pay just in my back taxes, plus my taxes, plus other debt. And so pretty quickly my income kind of skyrockets down. And I have been having some months this year without, you know, savings or generational wealth. And so it's been a little bit uncomfortable. And yeah, I'm also like here to report that within that discomfort, I've also never liked myself this much or my life in a lot of ways. So
thank you for saying that.
Yeah. I feel really, as like, I don't know, other weirdo out wandering in the world and like bumping into the many things that you've made, feel like capable of showing up the same way, because I'm like, okay, well, if Cody's out here doing it, then like
exactly
we all can actually.
That it makes me like so happy. Like I can't tell you enough. It brings tears to my eyes. Like that is all I want from my work, is to be like, look, if I can do this, you can do this, and here are the ways that I did it. So maybe you can skip a few of the like wave crashes on the way there. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, that's really happy. I do. I mean, and I think about it a lot, and it's made me really ask, like, we have when this comes out, retreat will already have happened, but we have a retreat coming up in September. And it's, I think because we are, I hate all of these words I'm about to use, because I just feel like they're meaningless now. It sucks. Honest, like, because we're honest, because we show up in, or all of those things that I had saying, you know, because I show up just like, hey, here's me. Who are you? How are you? What's going on in the context of us? And also like, what direction is the wind blowing? What'd you have for breakfast today? And like all of like the actual things that I think inform everything. I think people are taken a little, they're like, but like, what's the catch? I'm like, no catch.
Yeah, is the shoe
no
gonna
catch?
Drop? Yeah.
It's like, no. I just really don't want to girl boss my way to death, because that's what I just see all around. And like, I'm sure any like business coach would tell us to like probably 10 times our prices. But like, I'm just not interested in that. Like, that's not, again, like who's in the room and like who needs to be here and who actually needs this and why am I even doing this in the first place? And like, you know, why did I get up out of bed today? And like those things have to inform, sure, price, but also just like the container again too. And that has to feel good. Cause like otherwise I'll just, I don't know, I'll go work at Starbucks, I guess. Cause I've done that before and I can do it again. Like that pays my rent.
Yeah. Everything is theater. So I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about, oh gosh, there's a name for these folks. Like we're in improv class. Okay, we're all in improv class right now.
Great.
And we're in improv class and we have our prompt, we have our goal, we have our idea. And the first person who yes ands, like the first person who starts, there's a word for that I can't think of right now. The first person who enters the circle. Initiator. Yes, there's like a I went to theater school. There's like a term for that person. Okay, like who cares? Whatever. There's a word. We can say initiator. We can say whatever. But I think that that is like kind of always what I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about like whose work do I want to, like what path do I want to follow? Whose work do I want my work to kind of look like? Like who are the muses? Who are the resources? Who are the whatever? That's often the person who like enters the circle first and goes like, I will try and fail. You know what I mean? And I think like there are certain people who can enter the circle first and try and fail and are more obviously like safe or protected by the world. Like, you know what I mean? And then there are people that aren't. And I try and like follow that lesson and like follow those people for like the next answer, you know? And I think just to go back to the blowing of the smoke, I think Cody, your work has like, that's how I kind of view you as like you step into like the circle first and like with the understanding that it might be safer for you to do that, right? Than like other people that are in the circle. And I think as like a white artist, you know what I mean? Like as someone who like, I think about the responsibility of that often, you know what I mean? And like and yeah, that's whatever that is. I think that is what you're doing. You're like walking into the improv space and saying yes and giving like a space for other people to do that.
Yeah, something that my dance teachers say is like when we're literally on the perimeter of the space and waiting for someone to enter the dance, is it more generous? Like, let's say the dance has begun. Is it more generous for me to enter or is it more generous for me to stay on the outside? And I think that's sort of what I'm tending to in a lot of my work. And yeah, I've definitely entered the circle too early or too late or messed up in the middle of the circle and had someone say like that kind of wasn't the right move and have been really lucky to be like gently corrected and pivoted a few times for sure. And yeah, I think, and thanks again for reflecting that. I think that is something that is uncomfortable a lot, is that I am often the first one to try the thing and with very few models for what it could look like. And but now at age 36, sort of like 13 years into my career, you know, even, you know, 20 something years of being deeply online, it's really not uncomfortable anymore. It's really just a part of like, which is the gift I think to give to others, is that it's not really hard for me. I just do it. And yeah.
So who are your people? That would be my, like, where, like, who do you turn to? Who's like, oh, this person walked into the center, or like, you know, who are you learning from? Who are you, even if it's just right now, because I'm sure there's a lexicon, like we could go real, but like who are you inspired by?
Faria Roisin comes to mind, who's an amazing writer and poet and dear friend of mine. She really, especially I think in the last year around the genocide in Palestine, I think just took so many risks in her career and in her writing to bring us facts and journalism and poetry still, in a way that I really look to her as like, she really goes in even when she's uncomfortable. And I learn a lot from her in that way. And I'm really grateful for her. I think on like a really zoomed out from my own community scale, I think about writers like Octavia Butler. I think about Angela Davis. I think about Joan Didion. I think about Atel Adnan, who was an amazing artist, shape definitely a big shape-making inspiration to me. I have all of these sort of like, I'm thinking a lot about like gay history, and I think just being gay and being non-binary is definitely like a big part of like just existing in that way. You are a part of a lineage of going in first. I mean, it makes me feel like I want to cry. Like I feel like as I walk through the world, through in a queer body, I just think about the first brick throwers and the sit-ins and just carving that space, and how and even my choice to live rurally in northern Michigan is there are queer and trans people here, but there's very few of us. And so, to see more, like I've had some friends from Detroit move up, and, to see more and more people sort of arrive is, it is part of the, like, I am like the first of my group a lot, but like, I am not the first initiator. I come from a lineage of dance, queer, sober initiators, and that really tethers me, like, to be like, I might be stepping in by myself, but I am deeply not alone.
That's good. Yeah, that's jazz, man. That's so good.
That's God just coming through.
Yeah. No,
I didn't make that one up. God.
That's really beautiful. I think we should leave that there. Is there anything that you want to say? Do you want to say anything about dance? Do you want to talk about writing?
This share from earlier, that was an hour ago, like that you posted. Did you
yesterday
or was yesterday?
Yes. So yesterday. So I just came back from dance camp with my mentors, and which is in 2015 where I invented personal practice. Was sort of after being at this intensive and just being like, I need to dance more. Like, I should just make an Instagram account and dance. And then I posted some videos, and then was like, I should do this every day for a year. And then I did that, and then which was a miracle. I can't believe I never skipped a day. And
you're a Gemini, right?
Yes, 5 planets in Gemini. Yes.
Wow.
What?
I know. Scary.
Blessings to you.
Blessings to me and all those who love me. Yes, it's what I always say. Blessings to all of us. Yes, my sun, Mercury, Venus, Chiron, and Midheaven are all in.
Hell yeah. Gemini. Sure. Why not?
But I'm Virgo rising Capricorn moon, and that's why I have a job. And I'm somewhat on the planet still. But I was just with all these dancers, and just so I made this decision to stop using Instagram for my job, and so what really happened. You guys are gonna love this on your journeys of neurodivergence. So 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, my virtual assistant, God bless her, Hannah, the patience this person has with me, took my Instagram logins so that I couldn't log in anymore, and she was posting for me. And at some point I got locked out of personal practice and couldn't find the password, and and then also had deleted whatever email went with personal practice. And so at some point, I just gave up. I was like, I don't know how to get in here anymore. I don't really want to bother Hannah. And that lasted for 2 years.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't that I didn't want to dance, but I just lost the container. And so I just haven't been dancing, right? And so I'm like, I don't know where to put this. I don't have another container for a dance. And so I was around some people who really were reflecting back to me like personal practice was so special. And then I think because I'm not using Instagram for my job anymore, I had sort of also linked like, well, I can't use Instagram for personal practice because that's Instagram. Yeah. But Instagram famously follows no people. There's my name isn't listed. My website isn't on there. Like if you didn't know it was me, you would maybe have no idea. Like I think a lot of people have no idea who I am who follow personal practice.
That's kind of
They're
fun.
like, that's a random person who makes dance videos.
Yeah.
And so yesterday,
Is that a person? Who knows?
Is that a person? I finally figured out how to log back in and just dropped the vid. And the people were very happy. And then I made another video today. And I don't know if they're happy or not because I'm here now. So yeah, it feels really fun. It doesn't hook me in. And here's the other thing, right? It's not connected to commerce. I don't have to wonder if anybody's following me back or not because I don't follow anyone. And so it doesn't hook me in any way, shape, or form. I just make a dance video, put it there. I like to look. I like to see what the people say. Right. But it's not. There's no feed. There's no feed to scroll. There's no one to check in with. So it doesn't. So yeah, I don't feel like I'm back on Instagram. It's just like personal practice videos maybe want to exist again, and so I'm going to let them. And
just a stage, just
another stage to walk in on for sure.
I fucking love that. I don't like. I just love like the magic and the mysticism of that timing. 2 years that would just be gone in my head. I'd be like.
Yeah, it was gone in my head. I was like, personal practice is done. Like I 100% accepted at some point in the last 2 years that like that was a project that I did and it's now finished. And you know, for anyone listening who maybe is that far away from a part of their practice, the real trick was in posting yesterday was having no expectations. I was like, 3 people might see this for all I know. I have no idea algorithmically what personal practice will be like at this point. And I have to not care. I have to be posting this just to like release the moves into the world. And yeah, it really felt, I think that's what, like, I couldn't think too hard about, like, I couldn't think about it as like, this is my first dance after 2 years. It has to be so good. I was just like,
come
nobody
back
fucking
tour.
Cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. Everybody's just going to be like, oh my God, you made a dance video.
The joke is like, nobody ever cares. Like, we're all so...
This is like, whenever I teach about newsletters, people are like, well, what if I post on a Tuesday instead of a Monday? I'm like, no one is thinking about you. No one. Because they're really, really busy thinking about themselves. And that's okay. And that's beautiful. And yeah, and it's like no one cares. And something you said earlier, Phoebe, that I loved was like, or people do care and they don't like me and those people are not my people. And they can go find somebody else who does not go 2 years without posting.
Like, or they do care and they would be happy to receive your newsletter on a Wednesday instead of a Monday. And like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever. Like, yeah.
What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
What are we actually talking about here?
When people, I think it's really funny. Like, people are like, Phoebe, I get this question a lot. And I would bet, Cody, I bet you get some version of this as well, where people are like, you're so confident. How are you so confident? I'm like, I'm an autistic woman. Like, I'm not confident. I just have big earrings on. Like, I'm not confident. I just dance. You know, I think I don't know, whatever that is, whatever. I just think it's like, I think other people are looking for something, and like the thing that you're actually probably looking for is just like, I don't know, inner permission sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's so nice to think, like, I think today at my current age and like length of my career, like I am confident a lot of the time actually. And it's just really inconsistent. And for me, like, this is such a random like thing to drop into this conversation, but like I, track my cycle really specifically and really struggle with PMDD. And so there are usually 10 to 15 days sometimes that I have absolutely no confidence, and I still write my newsletter generally. I still do the thing in that time. and it just maybe looks different or has a different texture or feels different. But yeah, I think that's definitely another thing I teach is like feel the discomfort and do it anyways. You know, trust God and hit send is my newsletter tagline. But yeah, you just kind of have to hit send either way, and that to me is about like being of service too, and just the beautiful reflections you've both given to me today about my own work is like that is also part of the mystery of like I don't know who it's going to touch and who it's going to change, but I have enough information that it does touch and change people and also makes me money, and so that's why it's my job, you know, is because I think it works and it provides me a way to have a home and feed my dog and feed myself and travel and live my life. So
I could say 5,000 more things personally, but I think this is also, couldn't we all? But like we can keep the dance going in other ways. Cody, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. This was truly a blessing. And like I said, there wouldn't be Do You Ever if there weren't, and I think I mentioned this, I took The World Needs Your Ongoing class. Is that what the name of it was? Years ago. Yes, the first one. And like that was like early-ish pandemic too, I think.
Yeah,
and I was
early 2021.
Trying to figure out, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I don't like looking at photos on my phone from then. Anyway, I don't know if anyone else gets, like, you have like a memory of like a bad haircut in like 2020.
Oh, yeah.
You're like,
yeah,
there's too much darkness associated. Anyway. It really shifted a lot for me, and I'm just really appreciative of you. And there's like a couple of artists that I realized I'm like, oh, I know them from that container, and that's always like what's really cool. So go take a class with Cody, because you don't know how it'll change your life.
Please do. Thank you.
Yeah. And yeah, anything that you want to promote? Final words.
Oh yeah, my last thing that is I hope people come to is Landscapes, which is a writing group that meets every Tuesday and Thursday. We also have writing retreats. We have cave days. We have visiting writers. It's sliding scale $33 to $77 a month. If that is too much, there are low and no cost spots. You can email me, and we're going to write. We're going to just really dive into writing, and it's hosted in Mighty Networks, and the people who are there already are literally so cool. So you get to hang out with really cool people. And if you're like, but Cody, I'm not a writer. If you like the act of writing or have a practice of writing in your business, you should come. So I hope to see many people there. And I think we're going to take the month of October off, but we'll start meeting again in November. So
good to know.
Whenever you're listening to this, come on over.
I'm thrilled about cave days in particular.
Yes,
I
me
saw
too.
That was on my calendar and was like, fuck off.
Yes, that was a suggestion of Nicole Antoinette, who's an amazing writer and facilitator. And she was like, I think you should have some cave days. I was like, okay, I think you're right.
Gorgeous. Well, thanks so much again. I really appreciate this conversation and you, and many blessings.
Many blessings. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Yes, thank you both so much.
Thank you for listening to Do You Ever Feel Like, a podcast from Do You Ever Media.
Follow this chaos wherever you get your pods.
Our artwork is by Simon Pang.
You can write us at doyoueverpod@gmail.com.
Learn more about our work at doyouevermedia.com.
Or by following us at Do You Ever Media.
Okay, bye!
Okay, bye!